So, with today's video, we will be talking about Pothos. The species we got today is Marble Queen. You could probably grab one of these for yourself at enchantedgrow.com. Right over here, I'm going to put the logo. Go grab this amazing houseplant if you guys don't have it already. And let's get to the care guide. Okay, so today's video, we are going to be talking about the care guide for the plant Pothos. Okay, so let me go ahead and grab this plant right here. So I have it in this nice little pot right over here. It gets quite bushy. Let me try to move the camera down. But yeah, this plant gets quite dense. This plant, it's pretty easy to care for, I would say. Probably one of the ones that are easier. Takes some neglecting. Okay, obviously neglecting for plants are the best, but these will handle just fine, and as long as you care for it in time, you usually can recover pretty well. Okay, right over here for today's demonstration, I have this plant called Marble Queen Pothos. What gives it its name is the detailed and the textures, the colors, the variations. Okay, so let's first talk about the light requirements. With these guys, you want as much bright indirect sunlight as possible. What does this mean? This means it's not directly from the sun, because the sun can burn its leaves. It should, well, if the light is passing through a window, and there's some type of shade or some type of barrier that makes it so as long as it's not direct contact from the sun, it should be fine. It shouldn't burn the leaves. What burning leaves look like is little brown edges, almost as if it's drying up, and the color of the leaves will change. So you will know if you are burning it pretty soon. So that means when finding a place to place your pothos, the best thing to do is place it near a window. We got plenty of windows over here. Got plenty of fish tank lights. These also works. Artificial lights works. Natural sunlight works. But usually if you guys don't want an insanely high electricity bill or don't want to run a whole bunch of grow lights all around your house, windows works is fine. Now, even though these guys benefit from high light, low light should also be fine. They will still grow, unlike many other plants, but you might not be expecting the explosive growth you're looking for. It might be slow, might stay the same shape, especially during winter time. So just keep that in mind when you're finding a place to place it. Now, sometimes you could get away with direct sunlight, but as long as it's not on the leaves on a very hot day, as long as the sun rays aren't directly on the leaves on a very hot day for many hours, they should do fine. If it's just maybe 1 to 2 hours on the balcony when the sun passes, usually that'll do fine. But it all depends on the conditions and how the leaves are doing. So remember, usually you could tell if the leaves start looking weird or it starts looking a little bit dried out, it probably means the leaves are getting burned. Some other hints that something might be happening with the leaves is you might start seeing discoloration. So let's keep that in mind. Now let's talk about watering. With watering, these guys, they require maybe watering once or twice a week, so not the most high maintenance plants. Now this can also depend on where you live. If you live in somewhere where it's hot and dry, the soil can dry out faster, maybe once a week. If you live in somewhere where it's cold and extremely humid and moist, where it rains a lot, then you don't have to water as much. Maybe twice a week. In extreme cases, maybe not even at all. Now, these guys, just like many other houseplants, they are extremely prone to root rot. What root rot is the roots of these plants, if they're sitting in moisture too long, what ends up happening is the roots start to rot, then it leads to the stem, and eventually you're just gonna have a whole bunch of browning and mushy stems, which the leaves can't really get the proper nutrients. So something else that's extremely important is that at the bottom of your pot, okay, this one's a little bit difficult, but at the bottom of your pot, you want to make sure you have some hose. You want to make sure the water drains out. If you're keeping it in your house, make sure there's some type of container holding the water. You definitely do not want a puddle of water that's sitting there. These are completely different compared to like carnivorous plants, for example. Now, these guys, they do not like to constantly be wet. You want to make sure the soil does dry out, at least half of it, or a couple inches on the top. But make sure it doesn't dry out too long. You just want it to dry out once in a while. So you want to have some type of phase of nice and moist and nice and dry. These guys are extremely hardy. If we're talking about temperature, honestly, most temperatures, they should be thriving as long as it's not too extreme, too cold or too hot. Although these plants, they do prefer and do better in hotter temperatures. You might even see the growth explode if you have the proper lighting requirements. Now, honestly, if we're talking about fertilizing, any fertilizer really works. That's for houseplants. These guys, they actually don't really even require fertilizer and can still get pretty good growth. Talking about fertilizer, let's talk about its soil and when you might have to cut them. Usually, you might want to trim them when you're propagating them. I'll have a video of that. in the description. But with potting them, you guys don't want to make sure you guys are using a pot way too big. If your plant is this small and you're using a pot that's this big, what the plant ends up doing is trying to grow and develop more complex root structures, which will mean you won't get as much leaves. All the growth will be happening underneath, and you will have to wait before your plant actually starts seeing some growth expand. So what I recommend to do is get a pot that's not too big. You want a pot that's just the right size for the roots. Now, what does that look like? You see how this pot right here with this leaf dangling off, the stem almost perfectly covers the entire plant. It's nice and dense, and then maybe in a couple months, this might need a repotting. Unless if you do some trimming, of course. This is what you mean. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about not too big. This allows the plant to focus not all its energy into roots, but instead to these leaves. Well, propagation, just like how I mentioned earlier, I'll have a video of that in the description. But propagation, I will put up a picture, but usually whenever you see a node, go ahead and snip that off and put it in a glass of water. It will grow in no time. These guys root really fast. Okay, now if you're seeing brown leaves, this most likely means the humidity is too low. If you guys are seeing brown leaves, that probably means you're not watering enough. If you guys are seeing yellow leaves, that means you might be over watering your plants, or your plants might have some root rot, or it might just be sitting in some moisture. So you definitely want to look at your plant. That's the number one thing if you want to see the health of your plant. Sometimes if there is pest, you could use some soapy water, but most of the time, hand picking those pests off is the best, or using a hose to just spray everything down, because chemicals aren't really the absolute best, especially if you have it in your house. So yeah, these guys, extremely hardy plant. It's really hard to kill them. They will thrive in most conditions, almost every condition. They could maybe even stand 3 weeks without watering. But once you start seeing signs of damages in the leaves, that means something might be wrong and you might have to look into it a little bit more. Comment down below if you guys have any questions or thoughts on this video. And just like always, make sure you guys subscribe so you guys are up to date to the most recent plant care guides or videos. If you guys want to grab one of these amazing plants for yourself, you guys can go to enchantedgrow.com, or I'll put a logo right here. Go to the website. There is a lot of these selling that's nice, lush, and healthy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see all of you guys in the next video. That's it for today's care guide. Enjoy your house plants.